everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a DIY video because during lockdown I've been spending a lot of my time making things and I just thought I haven't made a video in a while and a lot of my followers seem to enjoy watching me make stuff. So today's video is going to be me showing you how I recreated this pair of Killstar shoes because I've had these for quite a while now, about over a year, and this pair has started to get quite worn down. The leather on the front of them is peeling off and cracking and they're just quite well worn out, so I wanted to see if I could try and recreate them because they're my favourite pair of flat shoes that I've ever bought, and they're not actually available on the website anymore because when I bought them they were in clearance. So I decided now that we're in lockdown and we've got loads of time on our hands, I would try and make my own pair because I absolutely love the design of those shoes and they go with almost everything that I wear. So I thought if I could recreate them then I'd still be able to wear that design of shoes without having to go online and try and find them second hand somewhere. And I just thought it'd be a nice fun little project to do because now that we're in lockdown there's not really anything else I can do. So here are the ones that I made and I'll just compare them to the real ones. So they weren't too difficult to make. All you really need is some fabric that matches the fabric that your shoes are made out of, some white fabric paint and something to seal in the paint afterwards, and obviously like a sewing machine is optional if you want to do the details around the edge of the patch, which I did because I wanted to make them as close to the real pair as possible because you can see there that they're stitched all the way around. So that's what I tried to do as well. But I think this intro is long enough now, so let's just get into the DIY. So these are my actual Killstar shoes, and as you can see the front of them is pretty beaten up. The leather's starting to peel off, there's scuff marks all over them, and the white paint is starting to chip off as well. So these are the ones that I'm going to be customising to look like the Killstar ones. They're just a pretty standard black ballerina flat shoe that you can pretty much get from anywhere, and I've just put some paper inside them to keep the insides clean while we work on them. So the faces on the Killstar shoes aren't actually painted straight onto the shoes. The design's been printed onto a separate piece of fabric which has then been sewed onto the shoes. So I've just got this piece of fake leather that I cut off an old skirt, and this is what I'm going to be using to paint the cat's faces on, which will eventually glue onto the shoes. So to get the shape of the cat's face, I used some baking paper and used my nail to trace around the shape of the cat's face, and I was able to do this quite easily because the shape of the cat's face was slightly raised up from the shoe. So I just traced all the way around and then cut it out, and I was able to use this for both the left and the right shoe. So now you can see the template perfectly matches the shape of the cat's face, and by flipping it over you can use the same one for the other side. And then I just cut the pieces out, making sure to flip the template over so that you get a left and right side, and then I marked these pieces so I knew which one was which. This is because one of the cat's ears is slightly longer than the other one, so that it follows the contour of the shoe and fills up the entire toe area. And here are the pieces I've just cut out, and I'm just showing you here how they'll fit onto the front of the shoe. So the next thing I did was to sketch out the design of the cat's face onto the piece of material, and I used the shoe next to me for reference. But obviously if you're using this tutorial to make your own pair from scratch, then you can find a picture of the design online. Once that was finished, I made some fabric paint using a mixture of acrylic paint and fabric glue. You can just use white fabric paint if you have it, but I didn't have any on hand, so I just made my own using this little trick. The reason that I mixed fabric glue in with the paint is because if I just used acrylic paint by itself, it would eventually just crack off the shoes and it wouldn't adhere very well to the leather. So by adding fabric glue, you give it more of a chance of adhering and staying on. So before I started painting, I just retraced around my lines that I drew before with a white gel pen so that you could see it easier on camera. So I'm using a pencil to paint on the design because I didn't have any fine tip paint brushes, and the end of the pencil helped me get into the really fine details. I know that a lot of people who do painting and stuff have dotting tools, but I didn't have one, so the pencil was as close as I could get and it did the same job. Then I did 2 coats of paint and repeated this for the other one. So as I mentioned before, the cats on the actual Killstar shoes are a separate piece of fabric which have then been sewn onto the front of the shoe. And obviously these have been made on a big industrial machine, and it'd be pretty impossible for me to physically hand sew these patches onto the front of the shoes. So my way around this was to do some top stitching around the edge of the patch to make it match the real Killstar shoes and make it look like they've been sewn onto the shoes, but I'm actually just going to glue the patches on at the end. So to add some more protection to the paint and make sure it doesn't come off, I used some Mod Podge and just painted over what I'd already done. Now once they're both dried, I just position them on the shoes to make sure I'm happy with how they look, and as you can see they're starting to look a lot like the originals. So now it's time to glue them on. I decided to glue just the ears and the top of the head first to make sure I get the positioning right, so that once I glue the bottom down it doesn't move or slip around. Once I was happy with the positioning, I just made sure it was all stuck down nicely and waited for it to dry. Now that the top of the patch is dry, I'm able to glue the bottom down without worrying about it moving. To glue down the bottom, I peeled back as far as what wasn't stuck down and applied the glue thinly. I then pressed down the bottom of the patch, making sure that the fabric was flat. This took a while because the fabric didn't want to shape to the contour of the shoe, but the fabric was slightly stretchy and eventually I got it to lay flat with some gentle easing and stretching. Then I let it dry and repeated the process for the other shoe. And here are my versions all finished. And here's a quick side by side of the original pair versus my pair. I think they look pretty close, and I don't think you'd be able to tell a difference if you didn't know that they were homemade. And here's just a quick try on clip of the original shoes versus my shoes. The first pair that I'm wearing here are the original ones, and the ones that I've got on now are my pair. I'm really happy with how these turned out. I think I did a pretty good job at getting them close to the original ones, and I'm really happy that I was able to recreate one of my favourite pairs of shoes for a minimal cost, especially since these shoes aren't available on the website anymore. So I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me recreate the shoes. I enjoyed making them because I'm a really big fan of Killstar and I love everything that they bring out. I'm actually wearing Killstar right now. Most of my wardrobe's Killstar, so it was pretty inevitable that I would try and recreate one of their pieces. And I know that a lot of my friends and followers are big Killstar fans as well. So if you missed out on getting those shoes and you really like them, then maybe you could have a go at making them yourself like I did. And if you do end up recreating them, then I hope this tutorial is helpful for you. Please leave a like and subscribe and a comment down below. I always enjoy reading you guys' comments, and thanks for watching. Bye!